Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township Board for February 5th, 2019. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Captain, you open us up in prayer?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for getting us through the day. We thank you for the opportunity and the ability to gather tonight to conduct the business of this community. Father, I ask your blessings on all that is said and done. May you be glorified. May everything be done in love as you would have us do. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 2, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support.
Okay, motion and support by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 3, consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to A, approve and place on file the minutes of the January 22nd, 2019 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, the appointment of Ronald Klawonn to the Board of Review as an alternate member for a first term ending 12/31/19. C, appointment of Greg Lascala to the Fire Advisory Board for a second term ending 12/31/2020. Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Number 4 is presentations. A, Bedford Township Fire Department 2018 Annual Report. Chief, come on up.
Good evening. Before I discuss the annual report really briefly, I just wanted to share with the board that earlier today we had our annual agency inspection for EMS. The state came down and inspected. Normally that wouldn't be anything to bring up or address tonight, but we passed and we've achieved the unconditional advanced life support licensure. So a year ago, when we moved forward, it was about a year ago this time that we moved forward with advanced life support. There was provisions set in place, and we had 2 years to meet all the provisions so that we could continue. We're about 12 months ahead of schedule, and we accomplished it today. So I just wanted to bring the board up to date on that. Under the annual report, last week the board members were provided the annual report for 2018. It included year in review, response data and graphs, and fleet information. It also contained a pretty comprehensive station report. I don't have a whole lot for you or to discuss with you. I just wanted to make sure there were no questions or try and provide any clarification that the board may have tonight.
Ms. Tinneberry?
I don't have any questions, but I want to thank you for a very thorough, very comprehensive report. It was excellent presentation, and I just can't say enough. Just one more, thing that the fire department does very well and has been improving on. So I just thank you. That's very appreciative.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'd like to take credit, but that wouldn't be the case. Captain Dale's instrumental. He's really the architect.
You.
Yeah,
I didn't mean you.
he's really the architect of the report year in and year out. So, and certainly we appreciate all the effort he puts into it.
I agree. I totally agree. But there has to be a full department in order to report in the fashion that it was. So I do appreciate Captain Dale's expertise in presentation, but the whole department deserves a hoorah for such a great report.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Steiner?
I echo what Ms. Tinbury said, and looking at some of the numbers and the performance of what the team has done, I just don't know how you could ask for much better out of a volunteer fire department, let alone your comparables are comparable to a full-time fire department, which is amazing what you and your team do. Again, comprehensive report. I think probably one of the biggest struggles for you and for this board and future boards is that capital plan of where do you put the station. As we all know, the stations 1 and 2 are definitely aging. There's a lot of dollars there to bring them up to today's standards. That's going to be very difficult to convince anybody to put that kind of money into a building that you may put that money into, but it's still an old building at some point. But then you have to look at what the real cost of a brand new one is, probably have to get real estate involved. But I'm confident that through the hard work that you and your team have done, showing the numbers, putting a good plan together, this board and future boards, they will get there, all because of the leadership, again, from you as the top leader, but there's plenty of leaders within your ranks as well. Again, if I was a firefighter, I think I'd have to say I would follow any one of your team members in as a leader. So kudos to them. And I told the chief tonight I thought he was getting an early birthday present because I came down I-75 on the way home from work and there was a brand new 100+ foot ladder truck flying down 75 going to somebody. So I was wishing it was ours, but unfortunately not. But
Maybe
again,
a few more months, I think.
keep up the good work.
I too want to thank you guys for the hard work on this. I know it's a lot of time and effort putting all these details together. The one thing, I'm excited to see with the buildings. This is in 2005, we had reports of these buildings. The Temperance Road needed $1.4 million back in 2005. Dean Road, $1.8 million back in 2005. At that time, we can always say, I wish we would have done something at that point, a little bit, scratched away at the surface, but now that we have this information, we have these numbers, we can't just sit on this and let it go anymore. We need to do something about the building, so I'm excited to see the plan that you guys have for the future of the buildings, this is a good reason why we need life cycle plans for the building, so, but I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Clemens?
Yeah. Chief, it's a great report. Captain Dale, I heard you did a lot with it. Thank you for that. But I just wanted to congratulate you on the ALS certification. Most people don't realize how significant that is to have completed that in half the time. And so very proud and congratulations. That's a huge achievement.
Thanks, sir. And again, the officers that put the time in, especially toward the inspection today, Lieutenant Teddy, Captain Dale, and the rest of the group that worked to make sure that we were ready for the inspection today, deserve all the credit, so.
Mr. Francis?
I've told you in person, and I'll do it in public, this is an excellent report. I really appreciate the time spent by all your staff to pull this together. The part that I guess interests me the most, or troubled me maybe the most, is the need that we see for facilities. We've got 3 stations, 2 of them are over 70 years old, and they look it. And we have to do something about that to continue to provide the level of protection that we have for the citizens. And I'm proud that you are working on it. You aim at nothing and you hit it every time. You've set the goals high and you're making substantial progress at it, and I appreciate it. And I'm sure the citizens of this township do.
Thanks, sir. And I think that we've known all along that we had to address some staffing issues and the low numbers early on. We had to address the apparatus that we had, and I think that report is really the next logical step. We're doing a great job with the staffing, and we've got our numbers up close to full staff. And we've got, through the millage, we were gracious enough with the millage request to be able to move forward with our apparatus plan. And this is really the next logical thing that we've got to come up with some plans and address.
Okay. Ms. Tinderberg?
I'm just curious, is this report available to the public, or is it online, or
It will be tomorrow, I understand?
tomorrow online?
Yes,
On the
available
website.
online tomorrow.
Website. Website.
I'll be
On the
putting it on
township.
the entire thing on the website tomorrow. I wanted the board to be able to see it first before we put it out there in case any changes needed to be done.
Sure, but some people don't have the website or computers. Are there any hard copies available to anyone that Might wanna
If someone requests a hard copy, we'd be happy to provide it. so,
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you, Chief, appreciate it. Okay, item B, presentation of video, Where Michigan Begins. George Welling, come on up. I know you guys been working for a long time on this video with the Communications Committee, so.
Very pleased, once again, putting this together. Appreciation for Bedford skyrocketed. Problem is, there's too much. Bedford has so much to offer. We actually had 400 clips to sort through to make this video. And the biggest problem, when we were talking about taking time, was how do we squeeze this down into 5 minutes? Well, we did it, because it's a start. We covered several subjects in this video, and all this is going to be is a stepping stone to more. You know, short videos covering the separate subjects like we talk about in this video. And I'm really, really quite excited because this opens the door for so many things, talking about schools, this, that, whatever. We have a stepping stone here, and we're going from there, and we're just going to get more and more videos. Looking good, and Bedford, you did look good. I also have to thank the Communications Committee because they backed me up. They had input, you know, because you can't just decide all this on yourself. And I guess that's about it. Got to switch cameras and we'll be right with you.
You could pull that out, Laura, to Ms. Welling, too, if you want. Good?
If you head north from Toledo, Ohio, you will find the community of Bedford Township. Bedford was once known as a bedroom community to Toledo, but through coordinated planning, innovative thinking, and positive growth, Bedford has blossomed and is now known as the place where Michigan begins. Bedford's healthy business climate means a growing community and a growing job market. All sizes and types of business flourish in Bedford, and we look forward to more. Entrepreneurs work together with the Bedford Business Association to grow and support our businesses. There are always jobs available here for you, from entry level to skilled trades to management positions. Our township enjoys a great location with quick and easy access to the world by way of major highways, railroads, ports, and international airports. The township is already making plans to take advantage of the new Gordie Howe Bridge to Canada to further aid in the growth of our industries. Bedford has a large selection of styles of homes and neighborhoods, presenting a country feel, but with city amenities. Bedford offers living for all stages of life. Apartment living and starter homes are available in all 3 villages. Subdivisions with their own personalities that will fit your lifestyle. Communities for active senior adults. Small and large farms are scattered throughout the township. And if you want breathing space and a home with acreage, you can create your own estate. Bedford is proud of their award-winning K-12 school system. 3 elementary schools feed into the junior and senior high schools, offering the latest in classroom technology. Other educational opportunities in Bedford include the New Bedford Academy, a tuition-free charter school, and the State Line Christian School. College classes are available right here on the Bedford campus of both Monroe County Community College and Spring Arbor University. Within an hour of Bedford, there are many major universities to attend. When the workday is done and schoolwork is put aside, there is so much to enjoy in Bedford. We are host to a county park and 6 township parks. Take some leisure time on one of our 3 golf courses. Enjoy a family outing at the local zoo. Shop for fresh produce at the farmer's market or at one of our roadside stands. Visit the local library, a hub for dozens of activities and technology services. Our community also offers centers for seniors and our veterans. Just over the border in Toledo, there are even more things to do, such as visiting the Toledo Art Museum or cheering on professional and college sports teams. Whether you are young or young at heart, you will find plenty of activities within our community. The finest part of Bedford is that sense of community. The villages of Lambertville, Samaria, and Temperance, each with their own history, come together to look out for each other. We gather at local fundraisers to support causes near and dear to our hearts. Our fire department and county sheriff's office offer the peace of mind and security our citizens deserve. Our government center provides services and promotes local industrial development, supports businesses in advancing their growth, and strives to improve the quality of life for our community. Come and be a part of Bedford Township. Shop the local grocery markets. Find a house of worship that fits your family. Dine at our restaurants, from small coffee shops and fast food franchises to local favorites. Enjoy the country feel. Discover for yourself what Bedford has to offer. There is truly something here for everyone. It is fitting that Bedford is known as where Michigan begins, because here in Bedford, there are so many great beginnings. Come and find yours.
Thanks for the appreciation, made me feel like $1 million. And hopefully, I really think we got a sense of what Bedford people are really going to start to feel, and we're going to tell them more and more. The business thing, we were talking about having sites prepared for places. I want to do something on that. I want to do something about everything that the township does, from passports, which is going to be our next thing, and taking off on these things like, we mentioned some of the things in Toledo. Well, that's an attraction for other businesses to bring the people here. But now I want to talk about all the things that can be done in Bedford next, too. That zoo is phenomenal, and I didn't even realize it. And we have more than that. Any questions?
No, I think you did a really good job.
Excellent.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Excellent.
I
Very
hope I
good.
answered your question.
Well, nobody up here has seen the video other than Judy and I go, George, what if we don't like it?
Then I say, tough luck. Then you do it. And I do have one apology, and that's to my son who did the voiceover. He's the only one I forgot to put on the credits. We'll fix that.
George.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Okay, item 5 is public comment. Comments limited to 2 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. I want to comment on Bedford Township Fire Department. Most people don't realize they don't see the chief sitting back here almost every meeting. He's been to as many meetings as I have, and that's a lot of them. So I asked him one time, why are you here? He said, well, in case they have a question about the fire department, I'm here to answer it right now. That speaks volumes for who we have as a fire chief. So thank you, Chief. I also want to say that was a great presentation. Obviously, it wasn't taken last week. Did you get the pun on that one? Okay, good. Now I want to comment on 8B, 2% budget pay increase for all non-elected and non-union township staff people. I come here quite a bit to the township. I've had dealings with people at the clerk's office, people in the treasury. I've talked to Al Pryor many times. Every time I've come here, I've been treated with respect and professionalism. Every time I come here, I see people working, not sitting around knitting or doing something. They're always doing something. And so I'm always impressed with that. I've always been welcomed in the ordinance department and places like that. I've always felt like I was a part of the community here. And sometimes I've not always been on the side of everybody in here, but the bottom line is I've always been treated with respect. So giving them a 2% raise is pretty minimal. And being a former state employee, I know that the bottom line is sometimes state employees or county officials and stuff get overlooked for benefits. And I think that this board should unanimously give them a 2% raise this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none, moving on to new business. 8A, request for approval of vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger.
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $362,191.18. Fire District, $6,634.93. Police Fund, $2,513.12. Park Fund, $22.25. Transit System Fund, $24,158. Library Fund, $8,191.88. Mohawk Trails SAD, $6,537.50. Mildred Drive SAD, $63,510.62. Springbrook SAD, $101,287.26. Downtown Development Authority, $50. Sewer O&M Fund, $68,594.90. For a grand total of $643,691.64.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Discussion?
Just one item to, for information on the general fund total, which is 362,000. 337,000 of that is for road projects. That's why it's such a large amount for tonight's business.
I forgot to, I was just like going over everything again before we came in here, and I forgot to reach out to Dave Manning. Do we know for, under the library operating fund, I said that to you, and then I never got the like invoice or whatever, between Habitat and Guardian? Like, are we paying Habitat to operate the library security system, or?
Habitat never started charging us for the library. There's two different, I think there's two different bills that go there for the library. Right, Trudy?
The cameras and then the security system. But I know Habitat charged us in advance for that contract.
Okay,
so
we'll have to go back on
You're gonna have to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
So we should,
We'll have to
Habitat's
get
been
a hold
told,
of them for
Habitat's been told we're
reimbursement.
not gonna be using it
okay.
going forward.
Well, that's
so
why I was like,
We'll have to get refunded.
okay. That was all I had.
Good catch. Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, request for approval of the 2% budgeted pay increase for all non-elected and non-union township staff. Okay, Ms. Hirschberger, did you want to take this one, or? I mean, it's
This
kind of
is-
self-explanatory, I guess.
Right, these are the amounts that we approved during our budget meetings, but we're bringing it before the board today just for final approval.
Anybody have any thoughts or questions about it? Ms. Tinnever?
This has been historically, since I've been on the board, it's been 2%. Is there a reason for 2%?
I think it's an attempt to cover the cost of living increases over the years. There were some years that we did not pay the 2% increase. I don't remember right off the cuff what years those were, but I was on the board at the time. And we did it for 2 or 3 years, I think.
I think closer to 5.
Was it that long?
I think so.
Costing living increase is 2.8% right now.
Okay. So we do this every year? I can't remember, sorry.
We've done this for the last 7 years. Prior to that, there were no raises.
Each year?
Correct.
I mean, we could talk about it at budgeting time too, if we want to, hold it off. I mean, that,
And I'm really not, I'm being Nancy, I'm asking questions, I'm not really advocating not to give the raises. It's sometimes when you ask questions, they're misinterpreted. I want to say I am thankful that this is coming to the board because in years past, not last year, but we have simply said, well, it's in the budget. And I just want to remind the board that we don't approve a line item budget. We approve a total budget. And yes, we as a board sit down and go through each department and sometimes each line item. But because we approve a budget, it doesn't mean that every line item is being approved. And the reason is because, I don't know if everyone knows, but you can move money around in your department. Certainly not something that we have said that has to do with benefits and such things like that. But each department can move money around, and it doesn't have to be just exactly as it was budgeted, as long as they don't go over their total budget. So my point is just that I'm thankful that we're doing this because I firmly believe that pay increases should be done by motion of the board at a open public meeting and not simply just included in a budget that the public doesn't ever look at or read. So that's just.
are you going to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the 2% pay increases as stipulated on the February 1st memo from David Manning.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Francis. Discussion?
These are effective, as you'll notice, February 1st. Our year end is June 30th. So the budget we're looking at is the one we're halfway through right now. Excuse me. The reason they're effective February 1st is that matches the time frame of the union contract that we've had for years. It's always a February 1st, I think every 3 years. So that's why that date difference is in there.
However, none of these are union employees.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay,
I think the thinking of, and I was here when that happened, I think the thinking behind that is the union contract at the time had a wage increase, I think, of about 2% at that point in time. And the board at that time thought it would be a good idea to match that with the other employees that weren't covered by a union contract. So that's why the timing of it.
Okay. Let's call the roll, please.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, request for approval of the resolution to adopt a new fee schedule for plant rehabilitation or industrial development district designation and industrial facilities tax exemption certificates.
Before you is the resolution that I said I was going to bring to the board for consideration to increase the fees. I did give you at your desk the last two that we gave out in the cost. The first one was 911, the other one was 1,032, and of that, we only charged $350. So the township was covering a lot of fees. I'm coming in at 800 because I would have to go further back, but this is kind of an average of 800. We could charge the 8, and then if it comes in higher, go back to them for the rest that we're paying. I just wanted to bring it to the board for discussion and what everyone's thoughts are on this. But I don't think the township should continue paying the total cost.
Okay, Ms. Tinderberg, or Mr. Steiner, go ahead.
Ms. Hirschberger, with that said, what's your thought on the 1,000 or the actual? So in other words, if we charge 1,000, comes in at 850, we refund 150, or, because if we go the other way, it might be tougher to get the money. If we say 800 and it goes into 1,100, it might be tough to get. So if we go for the max and then refund it.
We could, but like Sunrise came in at 1,032, even 1,000 isn't gonna cover that. So it's hard to, I guess if I could have it open where, you know, if we wanna bring that 800 to 1,000, and then if it's over, I try and collect the rest, and if it's under, then I can refund the rest. I think Dave would have to just open an account, like an escrow
If we have that
for
in our,
IFTs.
if we have that in our instructions, that, you know, this is our base cost, but if it's under, you'll be refunded the difference. If it goes over, you will, you know, be responsible to pay the additional, something like that.
Ms. Tinderberg?
What's the timing? I see the publication, postage, and copies are pretty much the same, and we know the postage has gone up. I don't know if this is, you know, has that in it, but the attorney fees, depending on the applicant, looks like that would be the variable. So
Correct.
what, I suppose it's impossible to have the attorney let you know if he's going over before, so that we would, you know, bill the applicant before we've given an approval. But I guess my real question is, what's the timing? By the time the board votes on the approval of the IFT, do you already have the costs in?
Not always.
Not always, that's why I wouldn't, okay.
The only other thing we could do is maybe tell the attorneys, if you're gonna have more than this much time put into it, I need to know ahead of time.
Yeah, you can tell them, but it doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Why don't you call it a preliminary estimated fee?
We could do that too.
Because I agree, I don't think we should cover the cost
No.
for something that they're asking for,
Right.
and that it's not covered by taxpayer money. So,
And to my thinking, that $300 is really, really old. Because
Yeah,
it seems
yeah.
like that's what it was when I was here before. So I mean, this is something, I thank you, Trudy, Mrs. Hirschberger, for bringing this to our attention, because it's true, the taxpayers should not be paying for, I totally believe in IFTs, but they're getting a tax break based on this IFT. So the taxpayers shouldn't be paying so that they can get a tax break. And I don't think any of them would mind paying the cost that is necessary. I like what Mr. Francis said. What did you say? No. Kidding.
Yeah, I agree. It must be really old if it was here when Nancy was here, so. Anybody else have any discussion on it, or?
we had cement checks back then, I think they were like a
Oh,
tablet,
yeah.
you know, you carved it in, yeah.
Sorry, Nancy.
No, that's all right. Fun, I like it.
Well, do you want to make that into a motion, Paul? Is everybody
Well,
okay?
we have to do this in a resolution, so we just need to change the wording in the last, now therefore it be resolved that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to prove a resolution to change this, that's what the law calls for.
Table it and bring it back then, or?
No, you can,
You can do it.
we
Okay,
can
you
put
go
the
ahead, Paul.
wording in right now.
Could you not put an asterisk by each number and just do a one-sentence asterisk underneath? estimated fees with all fees above or beyond to be refunded and/or collected prior to something to that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
I would send them both up to 1,000.
Yeah, particularly if you're going to satisfy the refund, and there's no hesitation there.
Right,
Absolutely.
just charging them actual cost.
Correct.
I think the other good thing there too is they're signing the document that they're applying for it, so they're signing it, they understand that it can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's binding.
Was there a second to that?
We didn't
I don't
actually
think
have
we had a motion.
Yeah.
It wasn't an actual motion.
Who, TC?
Yeah,
Oh, you made the motion?
I'll stand by my motion.
Okay.
Can you repeat the
I'll second.
motion?
Yeah,
I make a motion that we accept the resolution amending the IFT pricing with the one addition of moving industrial facilities tax exemption certificates to $1,000, both asterisk and noted that refunds and/or additional fees will be collected prior to issuance. Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Second.
Just, it's already seconded. Just for clarification, because I seconded it. Clarification, when you say the refund, when you use the word collected, just to be clear, should probably say refunds paid out or additional fees collected.
Absolutely.
Motion is supported. Friendly amendments, discussion, Ms. Tinberry?
My question is to the clerk. So do you have to set up an escrow account for each one? Is that, because you can't just pay it out of the general fund?
Right. I'll talk to the auditor to make sure, but I think we could just do an escrow for IFTs and
Yeah.
lump it all in there with their names separate.
Right, okay. Just wondering.
That's what we do with planning fees, and then refund if the escrow isn't
Exactly.
enough, and this should be the same way.
Right.
Mr. Supervisor, point of clarification, who was the second?
Mr.
Mr.
Steiner.
Steiner.
Thank you.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemmons?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8D, request for approval of the resolution to waive interest and penalty associated with non-filing of property transfer affidavits. Alan, come on up. Thank you for being here. You want to kind of explain to the public what we have here?
What the memo is part of the AMAR requirement. In the past, when this came into play back in '94, the township, with the research that we did, and up to this point, has not collected fees for late filing of these property transfer affidavits. The state now is strongly requiring us to put a policy into place that we are not collecting these fees for late filing of these property transfer affidavits, and that's what this memo is about, is continuing the practice that the township has done since 1995. If you have any questions, glad to answer.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Sorry, Ellen, but my inclination is to collect them. Why wouldn't we?
We haven't all these years.
No, I know, but now that we know, and, you know, I mean, I'm going to tell you, I read through this, and we are in a total mess with this whole assessing, I mean, not us, but the state. This whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous. There's so many questions, and they change it every time you turn around. I'm just furious. I think we should have march on Lansing and have one of these revolts like they're having all over the country, because I think that they're really doing a disservice to residents in Michigan and especially to assessing departments. However, when I read through this, someone who, I guess someone who's buying a brand-new house and never owned before may not know that they have to file an exemption, for the extra taxes. But if you've owned a house before, you should know that you have to come in and have this, this property transfer done. So if people choose not to do it, they cause more trouble for the assessing department, and I'm just wondering from a professional's point of view why we wouldn't. Just because we haven't done it doesn't mean we shouldn't.
Part of the day when this initially started way back when, I think the word that I heard out of the individual at that time, they called this hooey. They felt that township shouldn't be collecting this fee because it was a detractor from people purchasing properties. It was kind of a hindrance. Township can do that. We could do that very easily. We could establish something through Mr. Francis's department to do the doing the tracking and chasing these fees down. In most cases, by the time we're finishing with our roll, we've got most of the pertinent data from the deeds and the property transfer affidavits.
Alan, what's the percentage of people being late?
Right now, because we haven't enforced this over the years, I want to say it's probably about 64%. They've learned they don't have to do these, and it's just another item they don't do.
Well, how do you get your information so you can uncap the?
We get that through the property transfer, not the property transfer affidavit, but the principal residency exemption, as well as the deeds that we are now, we pull down every day or every week from the county. That service wasn't, pulling down the deeds back then was not like it is today. We would wait anywhere from a month, maybe 2 months sometimes, or 3 months to get these deeds. And the property affidavit, transfer affidavit was put into place so that the assessor could stay on top of those uncappings. And over the years with the technologies, we stand on top of them pretty closely.
Okay. I withdraw my whole thing then, because as long as you can get it through the PRE, then I agree, there's no need to.
With what you mentioned on that article there from the MTA,
Yeah.
and the assessing, what we're doing today, who knows what's coming down the pike. I've had several meetings with a number of individuals. We've already made some changes in our department already this last 2 weeks since I saw you. We're trying to stay on top of this as quickly as we can and make sure that Bedford is not one of those dysfunctional townships through the next AMAR. It's not just the review of the assessing department, it is a review of the unit. Exactly. And we are all stewards of that unit. And we want to come through this with flying colors. So our fire chief makes it a challenge for us. Congratulations to you. That's a tough program. Sorry, I got off there a little bit. But that's it in a nutshell for that.
I'm good. I'm not interested in putting more work on the assessing department or Mr. Francis's department either. But I now that I know that the PRE will take care of all that, I'm good. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, any more comments?
Might not be a bad idea to remind or re-remind the realtors that this is something that we'd like them to mention to their clients.
We can do that. We've got newsletters. Our first one is going out here shortly in March. That's to meet one of the AMAR requirements. But we have, I believe, 3 more over the year, and we will get those out. We're also looking to use the cable channel a little bit more as well.
Have you guys thought about starting a Facebook page to put information out on?
As of right now, we got our hands full, but it hasn't been taken off the table. We've got a list of things that we're looking to pursue and work with, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody has any more comments or questions? Look for a motion. Ms. Tanavari?
I move that we approve the resolution to waive the interest and penalty associated with non-filing of property transfer affidavits as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Francis. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Clement?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8E, request for approval of the 2019 Bedford Township Poverty Exemption Policy Guidelines, Income and Asset Test Guidelines, Poverty Exemption Instructions and Application. Mr. Matlow?
The poverty exemption asset test and guidelines are also a requirement of the AMAR. We've gone through, done a review, taken our application, which is sort of a battleship with proven record at tax tribunals, supporting the local board of review and their decisions in the day. I believe we've got a solid application. It is intense, but some of the other programs through the state, looking at their programs and their requirements, we're all in line with them. We've had some newer information delivered to us that we're looking at, and if we can make ours easier, we're gonna do that with this upcoming one for the next year. And that's where we're at. If you have any questions, please.
Any questions?
No questions. I just like to applaud Alan and his department for, this is an excellent report and excellent total, getting the exemptions, getting the guidelines, getting the application that they have to fill out. I'm just happy to see that. I'm all for giving people this poverty exemption, but I also know that there are scammers in the world, and there are people who hide their assets and apply for this under, misguided direction, and so this will prevent that, and I'm just happy that you've done such a thorough job.
Okay. Want to look for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
There we go.
I'd like to move that we approve the 2019 Bedford Township Poverty Exemption Policy, as well as guidelines, application review process, income and asset test guidelines, poverty exemption instructions, including the 2019 Poverty Exemption Resolution and the 2019 application.
Support.
Motion and supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Okay. Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 9, thank you, Mr. Mallow, for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Do you want to make a public comment? We're on to public comment now.
Do we get the information? I want to make double sure for bringing on the board of review member, new board of review member.
Yeah, you have the appointment under B.
Yeah, it's under
Ronald.
consent agenda.
Okay,
Consent agenda.
okay. Ron is here tonight to introduce him to the board.
Come on up, Ron. Camera's right over there. That way everybody at home could see it. Welcome aboard. I appreciate your service.
Doesn't he have a speech ready?
You have a speech ready? No?
This is Ron Cohen. He's
Speech?
speech. He's signed on to be a board of review member. He has experience in real estate, a vast educational system, or background, excuse me, and we appreciate him being here. And this will be your new board member.
Well, thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we have comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes for each individual. Come on up.
Good evening again, Logan Tisdale. We had a discussion last meeting about community policing. This is my definition of community policing. Community policing has been around for decades. It's not rocket science or something so complicated that the average citizen could not grasp its purpose. Simply put, community policing is a cooperative effort on the part of the police and the community in proactively fighting crime and disorder in their local communities. It is accomplished through efforts on both parties to establish trust and establish open lines of communication. It is a valuable tool to prevent and reduce crime and apprehend those who have committed crimes. Programs like McGruff, the Crime Dog, Crime Stopper, and Neighborhood Watch are valuable tools to establish this community effort. I know of no part of the community policing philosophy which negates or diminishes proactive traffic policing and enforcement in lieu of this philosophy. The public has the ability to assist law enforcement by reporting erratic driving, traffic accidents, dangerous driving conditions, debris in a roadway, and other serious traffic situations which they witness. To use the philosophy of community policing as an excuse for not taking enforcement action when motorists violate our traffic laws is, in my opinion, in direct contradiction to the spirit of community policing and its intent. Community policing is proactive with the goal of reducing crime and preventing citizens from becoming victims of crime. It is not reactive by nature, by simply waiting for something to happen and then responding. I can't believe that any department can say, well, we don't go out and write traffic tickets because that we're doing community policing. That's all part of it. You know, now with cell phones, it makes it so much easier for the public to contact 911, say they see an erratic driver, they see an accident taking place, they see debris in a roadway. I wish I would have had that when I was a police officer. We didn't have that. Everything was on hardline. So by the time somebody got to a phone, made a call, most of the time, most of those things evaporated, and we didn't have a chance to respond, or it was too late to respond. But now the community has the ability to make quick decisions by making calls, by calling 911, saying this is what they see, this is where they're at. They know where they're at because they got a cell phone with GPS on it. They can almost pinpoint where it's at. And so that makes it really nice. I mean, I wish I was back in the time when they had cell phones. It would make my job so much easier, and I probably would have done a better job. But community policing is not about not doing traffic work. Don't be fooled by that when people tell you that. That's not true. Traffic enforcement is still a vital part of policing. And whether or not that raises money, that's the byproduct of traffic enforcement. It's not the reason why troopers or police officers go out and write tickets. They do it to protect the public. If it generates money for the communities that they work in, that's a byproduct, but that's not the goal of it. I never wrote tickets so that the state police would make money, because I never made a penny on anything we wanted. It all went to the library fund. So we go out there as police officers to write traffic tickets, to prevent people from injuring other people, and to save lives. That's the reason why traffic enforcement is there. Otherwise, you might as well just take the signs down and just let people drive the way they want. If you don't have police officers out there that enforce the law, then that's what you have. You have chaos on the roads, and one of us is going to become a victim, and I hope it's not me. The other question I have is for you, Mr. Peroni. Do you know what other hours is for when the Sheriff's Department gives us the monthly reports? They put in other hours. They put in complaint hours, they put in patrol hours, and they put in other hours. Do you know what they do during those other hours? My guess is most of us don't know. But last year, they logged 3,617.5 other hours, which cost this township at a $43 rate, which is right about the ballpark figure for the 80-20, $155,552.50. I'd like to know what you spent that money on and what they did with that $155,000. That is a huge chunk of change. That is, that is a huge amount of money. And if other hours is doing things other than answering calls and going out on patrol, it better have something important for the community. It shouldn't be anything except what we negotiate with these people in the contract. They should be out there working for Bedford Township solely, not for anything else, not for, I don't know what else they could possibly do, but it should be for those two things, is answering calls and doing police for enforcement. So I'd like you to find out what other hours are. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Any more comments from the public?
Dale Track, 2842 Sanibel Lane. By the way, Happy New Year, Board. It's been a while. I got to tell you, Board, Mr. Supervisor, I was watching the January 8th meeting, and I was a little upset watching the public comments. I couldn't believe what I was hearing by a certain individual of this township, long life individual of this township, what this individual was saying. This person thinking that they could come in with the fact that they had an appointment, they could put themselves in a place of business without being asked to come behind the desk and just do as they want. That should not work in any place of business. There should be a policy where nobody is allowed to be back there. I'm going to tell you, my mom held Mr. Francis's position. I never went behind that counter unless I was asked to come back. I don't care if I had an appointment. I don't care if an individual has an appointment. They wait to be asked back. This is a place of business. You cannot go into any other business and expect to be seated wherever the heck you want just because you pay taxes. I pay taxes. That's a sense of entitlement that this individual might have. It's the wrong way of thinking, because I'm going to tell you what I believe that mindset is, and this is just my own personal feeling. It's a mindset of a good old boy system. Somebody that thinks that they can come in, chew the fat, sit where they want, and do what they want, however they want. This is a place of business. You guys practice active shooting situations. I'm not saying this person's an active shooter. I'm saying that this is a place of business and it should be conducted as so. Nobody should be allowed to be behind that counter unless asked to be behind it and called back. I can't understand why it's not a policy. Or if it is, it should be enforced. But like I said, I believe it's something that it's a good old boy mindset for this individual. And I couldn't believe it, to tell you the truth, when I heard it coming out of this person's mouth. You know, if this person wants to start doing something for the township, maybe they could start working on that Veterans Memorial that they promised. Let them think about that. I want to thank you for what you guys do. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Laura Collins, 3352 Dean Road. I own a tax and accounting business in Bedford Township. When I had my, talking about the Knox boxes is what I'm going to talk about tonight. When I had my building inspected, I was informed that I would have to purchase a Knox box and put a key to my building in it. I have a lot of client data in my office, a lot of sensitive client data, and I think I have an obligation to my clients to protect that data. All vendors that I deal with have to supply their data security policies to me for my E&O insurance for me to be compliant with their standards. I also did a lot of research on the Knox boxes, and much to my surprise, I found a lot of articles stating that these boxes can be hacked. I was very shocked. I do understand that emergencies do happen, but I'd rather have the fire department break down my door than me putting a key to my building outside the box where that has been proven it can be hacked. We did start a petition on Facebook that opposes the Knox box. The Facebook poll is 87% that oppose the box and 13% in favor of it. We also have a handwritten petition that opposes these boxes. I'm having my clients sign it as well, and I told all the business owners to have their customers sign it as well because it affects them too, because they frequent our businesses. And I have personal data for people that live all over the world. And I know the Knox box is in the International Fire Code, and this code is adopted by the township. I am asking on behalf of the business owners that we find a compromise on this. Either an opt-out option or an option as to what goes in the box. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, moving on to comments from township board members. Ms. Tinneberry?
Just a couple of things. One, I brought my township focus tonight because of what it deals with in terms of assessing reforms. And I've been hard on the assessing department for the last couple of years, and let me just say that this the information from MTA in this, I hope you've all read it, in this magazine is that it's the township board that's responsible. We're responsible for the things that they do. And I'm sorry, but the State Tax Commission is just, I don't know, they've just gone cuckoo. They have all these requirements, and then they have all these amendments, and they have all these, you know, opting out type of things. And I mean, how do you know? How are you supposed to know how to run the assessing department? I worked in the assessing department many, many, many years ago when I was, after, you know, teaching and looking for another job, getting back into teaching. And so I was hired into the assessing department by Dan Soda. And let me tell you, it was a fun job, but reading through all of this and the AMAR standards is just totally gone off the wall. I think they've just run amok, and somebody needs to sit on them. And I'm serious about going to Lansing and speaking to our representatives there, because this is just out of control. And I hope you read it, and I know you won't see anything different, because they're totally out of control. The other thing I wanted to comment on, after my comments at the last meeting, someone, and I have my suspicions who, but someone put this understanding community policing in my mailbox downstairs. I mean, this is a tomb. This is a pages and pages and pages copied off the internet, which is fine. I plan on reading every word, but let me say tonight that I have speed read it. My college days were an advantage for some things, and I'm reading through every word, but in the meantime, I have not found anything yet. And as actually Mr. Tisdale kind of alluded to it, nothing in here says that community policing is in lieu of enforcing the law. Haven't found it yet. If I do, I promise to come and apologize. If I don't, then we need to do something. Community policing, as he said, is a good thing. I'm not against it, but it's not in lieu of enforcing the law. I will have to say this, though. My husband told me that when he's out and about, he's seen a sheriff's department car with its lights flashing and cars pulled over on 4 or 5 different occasions since the last meeting. So maybe this just in my neighborhood or my area, but I see the lights flashing, or he does. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Steiner?
They were looking for your car, they just got the wrong one.
I know, I know. They were very similar looking cars.
No, I don't have a lot this evening, but I do want to echo a little bit of what Mr. Track made a comment here this evening. I think I agree that we do have to put something in place. Number one, we should put small signs up that says, you know, no public access beyond this point, and leave it at that.
There is.
But it's not real visible. It's not real visible to everybody. But the other side of that, we should, again, I hate to say it, just it's another document that's got to be created, but not everybody's going to be in that position forever. People come and go in this township. I mean, granted, luckily we have people that are long-time, regular, full-time employees, but when you come to the elected officials, you know, they're coming and going every number of years. So I think that we should put it can be a one-page policy even. Again, that no one is, you know, beyond that certain point unless they're escorted, and it's not even just call back. Somebody's sitting in an office, yeah, send them back. No, that person should be walked back, because I work in a business environment that we have engineers and engineering drawings, and you might have somebody in that you don't want them to be able to go, oh, take a quick snapshot of that drawing. Again, not that, I mean, 99.9% of the people aren't going to do it. Like they say, the rules are not really made for the honest person. They're not. So anyway, I would like to see us work on that as a one-pager, just to get that clarified, and somebody needs to be escorted beyond that front point into any of the work areas.
Mr. Francis?
I have a slightly different view on that. I do think that the sign's already there. I know there's one in the door to mine says employees only. It could easily be fixed by locking that door. That would be a little cumbersome for staff that goes in and out all the time, but I don't think this is a big deal. I think this can be solved by a sit-down with people that have maybe abused that in the past. And there's more than one.
Yeah, it's not one, just one. There's others.
My point is, it's a solid concept in my department and in the clerk's department. We have confidential information. At least I'd like to think it was confidential. It's tax bills. Well, people can get that through any number of means. They can get it. But what does concern me is there's cash laying around and checks that we collect all the time. And that should be secure as possible. And I think this would be a good idea to talk through that and come up with a reasonable thing, not a lockout, not a, I don't necessarily go along with escorting the people back in if they're a known quantity. If there's somebody brand new, like a salesperson or something, that's a little different. You don't know who they are. But I think the point is very well taken by Mr. Track, by Nancy, by you. It's very well taken. We need to work on that before it becomes a problem or could become a problem. The other thing I wanted to mention is February 14th is coming fast. There are two things to remember about the 14th. I think the good thing is isn't that Valentine's Day? The one that's not quite so good is that's the last day to pay your real estate taxes before the state forces you to put a penalty and interest on. So I'd remind folks of that date and to take care of that if they haven't already done that. If they need any help or want to discuss that, why, please call the treasurer's office. We're there to serve you.
Okay, Mr. Clements?
I just want to circle back to something Nancy had commented on earlier. Thoroughness is the theme, and just want to say thank you to the fire department again, and also to Alan Matlow. Tonight's agenda had a lot of high-level reading on it, but it was easy to get through, and it was as comprehensive as anything I think we've received. And to me, that's two things. A, I'm very appreciative when you're the one trying to digest the information. I know our decisions are better based on the amount of time you're taking to provide that information. Moreover, it makes me very proud of our township because I see the level of our expectations and what is good work product and what's acceptable just continually rises. So I just didn't want to let the night go by without saying thank you to everyone that had a hand in those documents. Appreciate it very much.
Mr. Montry?
Yeah, it was very well put together and like, it was great. I don't know if there's a person that didn't echo that. But at the same time, like the recommendations section of that, we got a lot of work ahead of us, I feel. It's a mess and we're gonna have to, I don't know if there's a great solution. It's gonna be we'll have a lot of work ahead of us. My only thing was I wanted to commend Mr. Welling for that video. I love Bedford. I'm very proud of Bedford, and that video was fantastic. Made me more proud to live here. That's all I got.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Just a couple things. Just want to remind the board members that the due date for the newsletter articles is Tuesday, the 12th. And let the citizens know that on Monday, February 18th is President's Day, and the Township Hall will be closed. And that's all I have.
Okay. A couple things. Had a meeting with the streamlining for developments, neighborhoods, anything that you come into the Planning Commission for and start a process for building. So we had a meeting with our full-time elected staff, the Road Commission, Drain Commission, our engineering firm, and we went over ways. It was about an hour-and-a-half meeting of how we can streamline the process without holding up somebody that wants to do a project or a villa or a subdivision it shouldn't take a year. So we're really hammering down what's being held up. We're finding out a lot of the holdup is the engineers that are doing the blueprints, or submitting their first drawings to the, not our engineers, to, the builders, developer or architect. When they put it together and they submit it, it usually goes back and forth 3 or 4 times. And it happens with the fire department too, and that's really holding things up a lot. So we're not putting all the blame on them, but there's some areas that we definitely can work on too. So we're gonna keep meeting on that and hopefully come to a good resolution. Economic Development Committee is having their first meeting February 13th, so I'm excited for that. Environmental Committee, we've been meeting with a lot of the ladies that resigned from the Beautification Committee. A lot of them have a passion for environmental. So really trying to figure out, how we can continue pushing the environment here locally in Bedford. We are doing a lot, but we can do a lot more. I'm excited for that group. The Knox box, it's not on the agenda tonight. Well, it was never on the agenda. We have a lot of work to do on it. We're listening to the business owners. We're listening to the people that have spoke out about it, and we're working on it. So hopefully it'll be on the next one, but we're hoping with what we come up with, it satisfies everybody, the businesses, the fire department, so we appreciate you, everybody letting us know your thoughts on it. And Craig, I appreciate you really, pushing your end too, he's not shy about, his thoughts on things, and I appreciate that. You're making a great trustee. The trade fair, March 9th and 10th, I wanted to put it in our board's thought. We've had the same display for it's probably since Ms. Teneri's been here, and that's a long time. So if you can think of anything that we can do differently, just put your thoughts together on that. Met with an Alzheimer's committee. They want to bring more to Bedford, more awareness to Bedford. So I had a good meeting with Ms. Oberleiter, and want to continue working on that. And I do appreciate the discussion tonight about non-employees walking back into the offices. I, for one, was the person that approached an individual about doing it, because I am extremely concerned about documents back there. I don't think you have any cash laying around, but it's always in drawers. But I was very concerned about it. There's a lot of documents, especially in planning. I mean, you've got plans that are private that aren't open to the public at times, that people cannot see until they make that public and go before a meeting. And within the clerk's department, there's files, and personally, I've only seen 2 different individuals do it. Other than that, it's elected officials, park commission members, that will walk in there. And I don't know if it's something even the park board, people that walk in, I think they still, let they're walking in, I think, for the most part. So I'm glad you'll be working on that, Mr. Francis. But talked at the senior center today, updated them on a lot of what's going on with our senior services that we're providing. Our ordinance department's doing an amazing job with some of these services that they're coming out with. They just came out with a really neat book for 55 and over that it's got a ton of information in it, and they loved it today, and talked about our snowbird program and Save Our Senior program if there's a senior in need. So I really appreciate Damon and Shayla and Tom, how hard they're working at the department. Other than that, what are other hours? Other hours can be a variety of things. It could be, like today, I gave the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts a tour of the township. I took them over to the sheriff's department. They spent about a half hour with them.
Not your other hours, you meant the police department.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, other hours for the police department.
You were just saying what you did with the.
I know, I brought them over to the police department. If if you'd let me finish, Nancy. She says that to me all the time, just let me finish. But I brought them over to the police department. They spent about a half hour with them. Some of the other things that they do for their hours is PR stuff. They do a lot of PR work, trade fair or whatever, vehicle maintenance. So if it doesn't fit in a direct category, that's where it goes, is other hours. So it's about the best answer I have for you. And If nobody else has any further questions, we stand adjourned.
Oh, he's lucky.